Hello everybody and welcome to the Showcast, a series of candid conversations from the world of film, brought to you by The Film Verdict and hosted by yours truly, Matt Micucci. In this episode, we'll be speaking with Carlos Vargas, the director of Hidden Era from the Viewpoints section of New York's 2024 Tribeca Film Festival. Unfolding in the city of Maputo in Mozambique, the film follows a Rastafari artist named Phambi as he struggles with securing his son's education and making a living while making his art, and also awakening to new ways of thinking, including from the influence of two young feminist women who willingly pose for his artworks. But this brief synopsis is only scraping the surface of a film that is quite a nuanced and dense blend of reality and fiction, as well as one of those rare movies to take place and document Mozambique and its vibrant art scene. And we'll be speaking about it with its director, making his feature directorial debut of this film after much experience as a cinematographer and producer. Lots to talk about, so let's get to it. Fire up an Audio Teeny and listen to the audio waves as they fly through the air. This is the Showcast. Hello, Carlos. Welcome to the Showcast.
Yeah, thank you, Matt, for the invitation. It's really exciting to be on your podcast. Thank you for inviting us.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk with you. You know, you're right in the midst of things there at Tribeca. Your film is screening there. It's called Hidden Era. And there's so much to discuss when it comes to this film, and I'm looking forward to it. But, you know, this is the first time we talk, and I like to break the ice by asking the artists I speak with a very simple question. What is your earliest memory of cinema?
Oh, that's a very beautiful question. I think really, to be really honest and open, I remember going with my family, with my father and mother, together in Bogota, in Colombia. I'm originally from Bogota, and we went to watch The Lion King in the cinema. I remember that was one of my happiest moments. Later on, I haven't watched much from Disney, so I started to watch other movies. But like, to be honest, that's the first memory that I got when you asked me that.
There's a difference between watching films and thinking about making films, you know? So when did that begin? When did you start feeling that itch to make your own movies?
I did start quite early. I mean, my father got this obsession. I mean, he wanted to capture the family somehow. I mean, my grandmother, we have like a very big family there. So 9 sisters and brothers from side of my father. So he bought that camera when I was 14. I started to record with my camera when I was 14. At the age of 15, I came to make into a contest, to a film contest. I did my first short with 15. And then with 16, I did another one. Then I moved to Berlin when I was 17. So it did start quite early. I think like the only thing, I got a little bit distracted by the industry. So I didn't focus much on the art house movies anymore. So I was doing like many productions for television, documentaries, music videos, anything also like to earn my life. And yes, in the last 5 years, I decided, no, I have to come back. And then I started to make my latest movies. I mean, one of the movies premiered at Tribeca last year. It calls Melody of Love. I was not directing, but I was producing and making the cinematography. And this year, I'm making my debut film as a director. And this is, exactly, Era Oculta, or Hidden Era, a movie that we shot in Mozambique. And yes, and we are very excited to be presenting it at this year's version of the Tribeca Film Festival.
And this is your directorial feature film. So that's always a huge stepping stone in any filmmaker's journey. Was it as easy or as difficult as you expected it to be?
I turned 38 years old last month. I think it was much easier than I could imagine to have started to make your debut with 18. Since I was collecting quite a lot of experience on the field, I was just like I watched many different movies across the time. I attended to different film festivals. I just learned from many different persons' experiences in order to make things much more easy. I mean, it was not easy, but no one from the team was suffering. So for us, it was very important that we could enjoy the experience, that everyone will just develop in a way during the movie. And yes, I think it is actually, I feel it was much easier to start at a later stage with such an important step. I think to make a directorial debut for a movie, it can just bring you a lot of joy, or it can just like bring you a lot of doubts. So I believe in that case, I'm feeling very sure about the movie, and I'm happy to present it at this stage of my life.
Gotcha. Still, when it comes to a first film, maybe there's certain statements that filmmakers look to make, and share with the world. But when you set out to make this movie, what is it that you wanted to talk about? Well, because, you talk about this being your directorial debut. Was there something in particular that you wanted to share with it?
Yes, absolutely. I think, for me, I was always very close to not only to art, since I moved to Berlin when I was 17. And at that moment, Berlin was like the capital of alternative art. It was like full of different energies. So I started to just kind of collect this kind of vibrations from the city, from different artists. So that was the last 20 years. And I think like during this trip to Berlin, through Europe and through many different places, I started to perceive what a deep connection art and the human have. And I think like in this movie, my statement was just much more about, of course, discovering something that is somehow hidden, which is Mozambique. I think like many people that I'm talking about with, they don't have like such a clear picture about Mozambique. And I believe there is a lot happening in the art scene, especially, on my protagonist, Phambi. He's a very talented artist and painter. And I just found there a very good way in how to establish a human connection throughout art, focusing on being free, no? On the creation aspect, no? Not depending on any kind of regulations, but feeling just like free to create. And I think like for us was very important just like to create the right ambient. It is kind of making something very simple, but at the same time complex, and using elements that seems to be very simple, but just kind of aligning them together to bring just the people to be spectators of something maybe that you could call real time. So the camera is not moving much. The people have like really that kind of role of contemplation of what is happening in this story. And I think it's just like really trying to make a movie as free as possible, trying to involve the elements that I really like during my whole life. And yes, I think that's kind of the main idea of the movie and of the style that I was developing throughout the movie.
I'm glad you mentioned it. This is one of the very few films that highlight Mozambique. So that's definitely exciting, to see how vivid the place is. And of course, how vivid its art scene is. So I'm glad you brought that up. But there's a lot of nuances in this movie. To bring one up, I was particularly taken by this very original depiction of the relationship between art and activism. Can you tell me a bit about how that is explored or, within the film?
Yes, absolutely. My main protagonist is a Rastafari artist, a painter, very talented one, who is struggling to find the schooling money of his child. And during the way, he is actually meeting two young women, feminist activists, which are helping him by posing for him in order just to try to create art pieces and to sell them in a way. But during the process, these two activists, they are trying to just like bring Phambi somehow out of this cage, no, that men have to live. Not only in Africa, but in Latin America and all around the world. This is actually, of course, not only my idea, no. This is like something that I took from one essay. It calls "We Shall Be Feminist." I mean, this Nigerian writer, Namamanda Nsogi, she is actually telling us like feminism is not only just about women, but also about men, and how can we just like really try to bring the men to be part of the fight of the feminist activism. And I think this is like the relation that I could find there. No, I mean, for a woman to pose as a act model, it doesn't mean that she is not feminist. I mean, she can be just like beyond that, and that's the kind of the relationship that you can feel. No, Paula and Nora, they are very strong women. They are independent, so they don't need any man to survive in Mozambique. They are just like entrepreneurs. They want to just like be empowered to also help persons like Phambi to overcome that kind of issues with I mean, in that case, to find the schooling money for his child.
Yeah, so there's so many things that I'd like to ask you, right? But speaking with you just now kind of gives me an idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's quite a lot of blending between reality and fiction, for want of better terms. Would I be right in saying that? And how far do you go in blending the two?
I think like both things comes together, no? I mean, like most of the directors that I like the most, they will just like really base their stories a lot into the reality. I mean, using cinematography elements to enhance a story is actually, for me, the best directing that you can make. I mean, not being really affecting the reality in such a way like, hey, I mean, how can you do that? No, not even God can do that. I mean, you cannot really just like be owner of every movement, and you cannot really just like direct every single thing in order to just like really be able to sell a story. So I think like in the opposite, the director for me must be another spectator who decides in which moment you can just like capture this kind of, the parts of the story. So I believe in our movie, for example, it was much more about preparation. We were not in any location shooting more than 2 hours. So we just like went there for days, like in preparation, maybe like 10 days. We were talking about what to shoot in that specific moment. We were talking about like very open about topics, social topics. And I didn't try to put many words into the characters, but try to just like make them reflect about what we want to tell. So I think it was just like much more in that direction. No? That reality for us was just like the only possibility to make the story, being able to making the people believe on the story. Because if we will have pretend, and we will have just like trying to make like a story out of the fiction, I don't know if the movie will have been a fail. So I think like cinema for me, it talks like a lot about reality, and in this case about real time, which is actually not an invention. No, it's something that it comes from Osu, it comes from Bresson, it comes from Dreyer. When there is a kind of a movement. No, they are doing transcendental cinema, and this transcendental cinema based itself quite a lot into long shots. Like you can show a plant, and the plant will be not the problem itself, but it will be just like the repercussion, the consequence, or the solution for anything. So there are different ways how to show reality in a way that the people or the spectators can believe even more.
Carlos, let me follow that awesome answer with a simple question, but I am curious to ask, and sometimes the simple questions can be, it can be good to ask as well. What is the meaning of the title, Hidden Era?
I believe like the Hidden Era, like as the meaning was for me to show it was about showing another time during our modern times that is not really specifically going in the same direction as everything is going. No, everything is trying to align with the world in a very high speed society, We talk about gentrification. We talk about like people trying to become the same kind of persons, people trying to just like really be productive for the society in just a few ways. So I believe for me, that kind of surroundings around Phambi and around Etnora and about Paula, it shows me that the work can still be very authentic. And for me, this timeless opportunity, the movie could have happened in the 80s, but also in the 90s, also in the 2000s. For me, that was a kind of an era, and it was hidden because it doesn't really have yet the repercussion or the attention that it deserves. No, there is like this specific part of the movie that Bambi says, "I would like them to give us the space that we deserve." So it's like talking to the world. We are here. This is like a hidden era that deserves actually to be shown to the world. No, we can be different. We can have different kind of time perceptions. We can create in a different way.
Carlos, what you said is really interesting. And I think a lot of what you said is what I believe that cinema is all about, you know, whether looking at things that maybe we take for granted or actually things that have not been represented at all. But yeah, so that's another thing that I like about your film. And I should emphasize as well that it's quite an immersive experience because the visuals are accompanied by some great music too. We should talk about it a little bit, you know. This is all just one, you know, lots of elements coming together, right?
Okay. Absolutely. No, I was just saying that thank you very much for this question. I believe when you are doing an independent movie like we did, you have to select, the best artists that you can and try to work also with your friends. And I think like in this case, I was very lucky during Berlin. During my Berlin stay, I got to meet like very good musicians, including James Leyland Kirby, which seems to be like one of the most iconic musicians for sound in Europe. His name, as artistic name is Caretaker. His music has over 50 millions of views on YouTube. He's like really like an icon. And I was working in a bar and I was having him as a client. And the last day that he left Berlin, he gave me his music and he told me, "Hey, Carlos, when you come to make a movie, please use my music." And 10 years after, I did the movie with his music. He gave me the rights. We are very good friends at the moment. And yes, that was, for example, like one of these cases. The second case, it was Cisco Parisi, a friend of mine, a very talented musician. He also supported me by doing part of the soundtrack. And of course, if you make a movie about Rastafarism and you are doing it in Mozambique, you have to work with some local musicians. And in that case, I used to work with Gret Matiana and Blackman, which are bringing very original songs to the movie. And I believe this kind of mixture gave us the possibility to make the movie much more universal. Not only music from Mozambique, but music from all around the world are being represented in the movie.
Yeah. That's great. And Carlos, I'm just thinking of this, having watched your film, and we are kind of talking about this within the context of the Tribeca Film Festival in New York, one of the biggest city, the city, the quintessential city in many ways. How exciting must it be for viewers in New York City to watch a film like yours that delivers a vision of the world that is completely different from their everyday lives, to the locals? Don't you think it's another great thing that's happening right now?
Matt, you said something very beautiful. And I think like this last sentence that you said, it represents a lot of what we are feeling at this moment. No? It's really like to bring the people something very unusual that make us also think that the world can have many different faces. And I think I hope that the movie is going to allow us to think differently, and to see that there are different landscapes, different perceptions, different times. Hopefully there will be a link, between the spectators and Phambi, of course, this fantastic painter, to Mozambique, of course, this beautiful country, and of course to Paula and Etnora, which are probably for me the future project for me.
Yeah. Well, Carlos, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thanks a lot. Well, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed another Showcast conversation. There'll be plenty more coming your way over the next few days, including from the Audiovisual Producers Summit in Reggio Calabria, Italy, the Annecy International Animation Film Festival and Market, and the Mediterranea Film Festival in Malta, and so on. So whether you're working in film or love movies, we've got a wide range of podcast conversations for you to sink your ears into, and you can find them over at filmverdictnetwork.com. Or you can look for TFV Network wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to follow us so you never miss a new episode. Till the next time, from the Film Verdict, this is Matt Micucci signing off. See you soon.